Alright, Space Wolves fans, you are going to be featured in the first half of this action figure review. Specifically, we are going to be taking a look at the Claw Pack member with the Stoneshield, as well as the double-headed axe, as well as the Thunder Hammer in this one. And for you Ultramarines fans, we are going to be visiting the Blueberry patch, specifically the one that was released alongside the Leviathan Box, which is the Sternguard Veteran that is wielding the heavy bolter. So let's dive right on in. Now this type of action figure is what I was expecting with the re-release of the Claw Pack. There is a marked difference in which I will show you a little bit about the paint quality on this action figure versus that re-release. And I can't remember, to be honest, if this one was a re-release as well. So you can let me know in the comment section if Stoneshield is. But let's get to the review. Now, looking at the helmet, what do we see? Aha! We see shading all over the place on this thing, which is fantastic. Lo and behold, there is plenty of shading in between the vents. I suppose the only other small gripe is the flat red lenses, but you know what? We will take what we are given in this one. And flipping around, once again, more Claw Pack insignia on this pauldron here. And flipping around on this side, we have a Space Wolves logo that is actually not printed on. It is a raised piece of plastic. Now, there are some wolf's teeth on here. And then as we are looking at the front part of the action figure, looks like he's rocking this amulet with a rune. There is a winged gem right here, and it doesn't really appear that there's too much shading here in between the feathers of the wings, but they decided to go for a bronze color instead of a muted gold on this one. In the waist area, you clearly have a belt, a wolf skull right here. There is an added wolf's pelt for the loincloth, along with the wolf's tooth and an amulet. Speaking of amulets, this thing has also an extra wolf's headed amulet that is dangling down. He's rocking a holstered bolt pistol with a purity seal, and the last thing that he has around his waist are 3 accessory pouches. You also notice that he has a wolf's tail, much like the other brethren in his Claw Pack. But the biggest difference, I will have to say, between Stoneshield and the rest of the Claw Pack members is the extensive shading that's happening. There is a lot of depth on this action figure. You flip them around. This is where you see the marked difference here. We'll do a side-by-side comparison in a quick second, but let's look at the weapons and armaments for this action figure. Another thing is I kind of wish that this guy had a separate bare head, but again, this is what we're given. Now, looking at this double-headed power axe, because you get to see these nodes here, looks like he was given the same power axe as the Claw Pack leader with this monochrome axe head and then this wolf's tooth down here. But what is different about this action figure is that he is given a Thunder Hammer. So you've got the bronze head of the Thunder Hammer that transitions to a metallic gunmetal color with a wolf skull here, and progress on down. You see the normal elements of the Thunder Hammer, and you finally get a pommel that is made of wolf's fur. Let's take a look at the bolt pistol. Really nothing much to be said, your standard issue bolt pistol. However, the shield is something different. I will have to say this shield is very interesting in that, guess what? There is plenty of shading on the outside edges. There are runes that are scrawled on as well. And finally, you have a very large wolf skull here with a bunch of shading, which is fantastic. On the other end, you can see that this is a powered shield as well with the power nodes here. And the final thing that we're going to take a look at is the backpack, and really nothing much to say, just your standard issue backpack once again. And now we will compare this guy to the pack leader in the reissue. And like I said before, this action figure on my left hand side, there is a marked difference in the depth, and I'll be honest with you on the quality. I feel like the quality is better on this guy right here. Just look at the shading here. It is absolutely fantastic. So you obviously have a lighter Space Wolves gray because there is no shading whatsoever on this one. but there is plenty of shading here, so it looks a little bit darker. In all honesty, I would rather have the look of this action figure versus this. And now we will switch gears and then migrate into the blueberry hatch. Clearly we have our first specimen in the Leviathan box with this Sternguard Veteran. So let's take a look at what the body offers. And we see metallic red lenses. There is plenty of shading up top here. There is no shading whatsoever in the vents, which I think that should have been there in my opinion. But if we look at this icon over here, it is perfectly screened on, which is very nice. We flip around to the other side. You clearly see a very large Ultramarine pauldron where you have the white on the outside, the Ultramarines U, the laurels here are nicely screened on, to be honest. And then you have an Ultra on this banner here. This banner is obviously raised, and you get to see plenty of depth here as the Ultra is actually colored in, which is very nice. And taking a look at the center section, we have a winged crux here, and moving further on down, we have the characteristic tabard that the Sternguards always rock. And this tabard has plenty of shading in between here, which is nice to see. Dangling down is a nice piece of iconography where you have an amulet that is here. Now, looking at the other accessories on the waist, you have a accessory pouch, a holstered bolt pistol, another 2 accessory pouches, and a very interesting looking drum for the heavy bolter. You can see the bolt rounds right here that are peeking up from the drum. So that's really nice to see. It'll lift up the tabard. You have some scroll on the kneecap here, purity seal, and a bunch of studs too. So we're going to put this guy down and take a look at the heavy bolter here. This is where the Space Marine grabs the heavy bolter with the non-trigger finger. And thankfully, this does not have a masculine type protrusion here like we saw on the Grey Knights, which is a welcome relief, to be honest. So you have the black casing here, and then the other silver elements that are accenting this heavy bolter. You flip this around, you get to see the drum right here. Attached to the heavy bolter are a bunch of cables here. So you got a hose, a wire, and then at the end of it, there's a slight modification where you don't have the vents, but you have this area that is powering the heavy bolter. So that is a review of the Space Wolf and the Ultramarine. Time to wrap up the review. All right, Space Wolves fans, let's talk about your action figure first, as it was featured first in this review video. So what do I think about this? I believe, in all honesty, that the Claw Pack members that I reviewed last week should look exactly like this action figure over here. As I said before in the review video, you saw plenty of depth in the terms of shading. This action figure right here is what those Claw Pack members should have looked like, in my opinion. What are things that I like about it? Obviously, I like the unique Stoneshield that has the wolf's head on it, as well as the thunder hammer that this guy is wielding too. It is very poignant. Although I would have to say one small thing that's lacking is I kind of wish that this guy had a bare head to feature how special he is compared to the rest of his Claw Pack brethren. But regardless, I do actually believe that this guy is a good buy. In fact, he probably is a better buy than some of the Claw Pack individuals that were featured in last week's video. Now, talking about the Smurfs on the right hand side, what do I think about this guy? He's got all the Sternguard veteran look, especially with the long tabard that all these Sternguard veterans are known for, and he also is wielding a pretty damn cool heavy bolters. I love heavy bolters, and the thing that really stands out to me is that he's got this big huge magazine that's strapped on the back. What I think about this action figure, I think that this is one of those must buys just because a heavy bolter is just so iconic, and Sternguard veterans are also very iconic. So once again, this is Brews and Studs. Thank you so much for tuning into these action figure videos. If you are interested in getting these 2 action figures I have featured in this review, please click on the link in the description below where you will be directed to David Toys. And do not forget to use the code SNS to receive 12% off of your purchase. And with that being said, the next video will be featuring 2 more Sternguard veterans from the Leviathan box set. So with that, I will see you all in the next one.